Hi garden friends. Recently a viewer told me my garden looks like a box of crayons. I love that comment. In today's May Garden Tour, I'm going to show you why. I'm also going to show you a picture of what my garden looked like 7 years ago when there was practically nothing. And for the viewer who asked, I'm also going to show you my iron plant stand, what it looks like without any plants on it. I guess she wants to create one for her own garden, and it would be very helpful to see what this looks like completely bare. Right now, I would say this is the most colorful spot in my garden. So of course, I'd like to start the garden tour right here. As you can see, I have 3 whiskey barrels. I used to have tire planters, but I removed those and replaced them with these genuine Jack Daniel whiskey barrels, which I absolutely love. Inside each barrel, I have a miniature rose with some strawberries in the front and violas in the back. The kids and I have been harvesting strawberries off of these for a very long time now, and they're so delicious. Homegrown is always the best, right? Look at my beautiful Gara. This is just one plant. I would say it's about 5 years old, and I think it's so whimsical. As the season continues, it'll start sending out shoots of a lighter pink flower. I don't know why that is. Maybe some flowers are males and some are female. I'm not sure how that works. I just know it's so whimsical and charming. Oh, you can see one of those little flowers up here. See how this one is like a lighter color? I don't know why that is. Behind my Gara, I have a dwarf fig tree. Yes, that's a dwarf. It's called Miss Figgy, and that thing is huge. But right over here is my beautiful Proven Winners Supertunia Vista bubblegum. Now, anyone who grows the bubblegum petunia, I will be very honest with you, if you don't spray it with BT, you will get those cabbage moths laying their eggs on it, and they will decimate the plant. It's kind of hard to tell, but behind the bubblegum, I have a purplish bluish salvia. My beautiful gilded sun rose is in full bloom, and I love the color contrast between the yellow and the different shades of pink. Inside this whiskey barrel, I have like a purple miniature rose. I love miniature roses. They bloom so much more than regular size. And they stay small, of course, without pruning them. But see the beautiful colors between the purple, the pink, and the darker pink, like a purple. It's no wonder that comment said my garden looks like a box of crayons. I think it really, really does. And over here is my yellow miniature rose. Look at all the blooms on that. I have a Silver Falls dichondra, and behind that is a firecracker bush, a Kupfia. The hummingbirds love it. But look at my beautiful hollyhocks. They've gotten so tall this year, taller than my sunflowers. The first year they sleep, the second year they creep. They don't put flowers on until the second year because these are called biennials. And this is the 3rd year I've had them, and they are leaping. And right over here in this corner, I have a euphorbia, Ascot rainbow. And if you look at it very closely, you'll notice that it has all these delicate little interesting, I don't know if I would call them blooms. So interesting, aren't they? And a couple stacked pots containing succulents. Succulents don't like full sun. A lot of people don't realize that. So if you have an area that gets all morning sun and some relief from the afternoon, they will be super happy. And also stacking pots is a great idea to add more plants to your garden if your garden isn't too big. And if I'm standing where those stacked pots are, here's another backside view. And you can see that I have a solar water fountain with a rusty arbor above it, and growing up both sides are two different clematises. But those already bloomed for the spring. They will put on another show of blooms probably in the summer or fall. And right there is a white Natchez crepe myrtle tree. And that blooms about 3 or 4 times once summer hits, usually in July. And this one is a dynamite red tree. That one is about 7 years old, but it's smaller because when that brick wall was built, I used to have a regular wooden fence. But the property owners behind me, they tore the fence down and put up the brick wall. The construction workers dropped some equipment on my tree, so a couple of the branches broke. But you know, that's life. Nothing's ever perfect, and sometimes people make mistakes. Here's a little front side view of my veggie boxes. I have 3. And I originally had those built to grow vegetables. Look at the pretty birds. But I realized that I'm enjoying flowers so much more. And those archways are just cattle panels. I got 1 cattle panel, sliced it in half long ways, and I made 2 arches. And as you can see, the birds love them. Recently, I just planted a new geranium. Now, in most of my videos, you'll hear me say how much I hate geraniums. Well, that was true. But this year, when I just saw how beautiful my geraniums were giving off more color, I said, you know what? I think I need to give geraniums another try. And I'm so glad I did, because I just love the way this new geranium looks next to the pink. The colors just contrast really nice off of one another. And if I back up a little bit, you'll see my beautiful citrus lantana in this vintage bathtub. That's just 1 plant. A lot of times when you go to the garden centers and you buy plants, they'll stick 2 plants inside each pot to make them look bigger, but it's really a good idea to separate them. I made that mistake the first time I grew a lantana. There was actually 3 plants in one. I didn't know it until a couple years later, when it just stopped blooming and it stopped growing, and I dug it up, and then I realized, oh my goodness, this was actually 3 plants. So I don't make that mistake anymore. When I planted this geranium a couple days ago, you'll see the video, I posted that before this garden tour, there was actually 2 plants in there. So yeah, at first it will look really nice, but after a couple years it just won't perform as well because it'll be too crowded. So I did separate those. So I highly recommend, when you go to the garden centers, check inside, and chances are there's probably more than 1 plant, and I think you should separate them. This little area over here is called my succulent propagation station, because it's an area where I propagate succulents and cacti. It's made up of 3 park benches that I just painted to give my garden some color. And here I have a bottle tree in this terracotta pot. All I did was stick some rebar in the pot. I didn't even need a hammer. See, I got them in all different lengths. And then I just stuck them down and added some vases and bottles I got at the thrift store. I also have bottle trees in the ground, but those require a hammer. And sometimes, let's face it, it's hard to hammer in the dirt. But creating a bottle tree in the terracotta pot is so much easier. And it's a fun way that I added color to my garden. And I pick up these little birds at the thrift store, and the same thing with all the bird houses. I have to keep them up high because when I did have them lower, my grandkids liked to play with them and probably broke a few, but that's okay. This is my newest cactus. This is called the hairy man cactus. I know there's a proper name for it, but I just call it the hairy man cactus. And this thing will grow big, and it looks like it has hair on it. I think it's so much fun. And this area over here is my children's fairy garden. I know the way the sun is coming down, it's casting a lot of shadows, so it might be kind of hard to see. Just a fun and cute way that I add more color to my garden. That is a Mahonia soft caress. I'm not sure it's doing good there. Doesn't really bloom very well for me. Maybe it doesn't get enough sun. I don't know. A cute little ice cream parlor chair I picked up at the thrift store. And I just dumped over that bucket to make it look like it's spilling out gravel. And behind there is like my secret storage area. We don't want to go back there. I think we all have one of those spots that we necessarily don't want to show people. And there is a string of pearls hanging from this colorful pitcher. It's still kind of new. I'm hoping that that grows nicely. Yeah, so my colorful garden that looks like a box of crayons. And I have another little succulent and cacti area over here in that painted barrel. Miniature roses. My fringe poppies are done blooming and they're starting to go to seed. And I think the lemon coral sedum adds so much color to the garden. And here's a little backside view of everything. A couple little horseshoe flowers. I just glued horseshoes together and painted them, make them look like flowers. But I love these mangaves. They add so much color to the garden without depending on flowers. When I potted up that first geranium and I discovered it had 2 plants, I just planted the second one right there. And if you notice little toys in my garden, that's because my grandchildren now live with me. So they come out into the garden. See that little pot? They come out into the garden and they play. That's little Zeke. That's Zayla's little brother. And he gets into everything. So if you ever see toys in my garden, this is why. He hears the garbage truck. He always gets excited. Here's something new I added to my garden. Look at my old antique, this is an authentic wood burning stove. I don't know if people used it for cooking or they used it for heating, but I decided to put it in between these 2 chairs so when I have company over, they'll have a place to set their drinks. And yes, if you see the chair, there's more toys. The grandkids were out here playing yesterday. And above this is a beautiful Japanese maple tree. It's a nice little sitting area and it just provides a little shade in the afternoon. And I recently redid my bird bath garden. I took out the primroses because those were all done. They're more of a cool season, late winter, early spring flower. And I replaced them with impatiens. Because this area does not get a lot of sun, I thought the impatiens would thrive. And I just got 2 6-packs. So they're very small, but with a little patience, I hope I'll get beautiful blooms. And growing up the sides of the arbor, I'm growing sweet peas, and they took off nicely. This is the center of my garden. I call this my iron plant stand because it was homemade. And in just a second, I'm going to remove all the plants so you can see how it's made. One of my viewers asked me if I could show it so they could get an idea and possibly make one for their own garden. But now that it's bare, you can kind of get an idea of what it really looks like and how it was made. It was all handcrafted using rebar. 8 pieces of rebar. And then some of the rebar was curved, and some of it kept going to the top. Yes, somebody was throwing this away. A friend of mine discovered it out on the street or the gutter, and they said, hey, Liz would like this for her garden. And I would say this has been one of the most beautiful gifts anyone has ever given me. Along with my beautiful tea kettle wind chime. My girlfriend Kelly made this for me. And that's also one of the items that I absolutely love and cherish. So I am growing a Clematis armandii snowdrift, and look how tall and big it's getting. My idea was to have it grow all the way across my patio, and it's doing so well. I just keep it tied up with those green Velcro garden ties because they're soft, and it's been working really good for me. I got that cute little garden sign at an antique store. It's not old, but you know, sometimes at antique stores they sell gifts. And I just love it because it points to the rest of my garden. And growing inside the hanging baskets on top, I have both Creeping Jenny and Vinca minor. Vinca minor trails. And this will eventually get all the way down to the Vinca by the end of summer. And the Vinca minor makes these cute little blue flowers. And as you can hear, my chicken just laid an egg. They love to brag about their eggs. And in these pots I'm growing Canterbury bells. Just like the hollyhocks, the first year that you have them, they don't bloom. This is the second year, so I'm expecting blooms this year. Oh my goodness. I haven't even mentioned my beautiful bougainvillea. Bougainvillea or bougainvillea, however you pronounce it. That is a beast, and it's only one plant. Can you believe that? I absolutely love the color. It's called an Elizabeth Angus, and I searched and searched for that color. One plant, and it'll do this for me about 5 or 6 times a year. So once this is done blooming, all the bracts will fall off, and then a few weeks later or a month later, it'll start all over again. And yes, it is messy. When all those bracts fall off, it looks like pink snow. I call it pink mulch because I put it back in my garden. And I am growing a yucca right in there. Another example of how foliage can add color to the garden. And next to the yucca, I have a tomato plant. Here's a little backside view of the yucca and my bougainvillea. I call this little area my happy place. Just a little area where I collect all my little thrift store treasures, yard sale finds, and fun doodads. An old lawnmower, a little shelf with succulents, and I recently found that bird cage at a yard sale. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you have a beautiful day in your garden too. Bye!